Okay, can I get an approval of the minutes from the last public hearing?
Make a motion to approve the minutes?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Chair says aye. Item 3, unfinished business and tabled items. A would be the ordinance amending Chapter 200, trees, shrubs, and woody vegetation. Do I hear to take it off the table?
No, I'll vote no. I'm a motion to vote no on that because that's not something you want to charge.
Gotta bring it off the table.
Come off the table. Okay, I'm sorry. Yeah, Wally could name my motion and we take it off the table.
Second. As a point of privilege, do we have other members who are imminently going to be here? I know Mitzi was, Councilor Intezo was here earlier.
Yeah.
I know Mr. Gresco.
Mr. Gresco's stuck at the state capitol tonight.
Yeah.
That I know.
Okay, that was it.
So we have a motion to take the ordinance off the table. Open for discussion?
No, you have to vote on. We have to vote on that motion.
There was no motion. Was there a motion?
Was there a motion?
Motion by Mr. Kadim, and I have seconded.
Right. Everybody in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
No. Chase.
No,
Yes.
I'm sorry, wait a minute.
it's to take it off the table.
This is to take it off the table.
Take it off the table.
Yes.
Right?
Now it's open for discussion.
Yes, discussion.
Discussion?
Wait,
Mr. Chair.
what was the vote?
Mr. Chair, the vote was to
The vote
take it
hasn't
off.
been. The vote hasn't been. No, the vote has not been announced. I don't know if it's been taken off the table. We only have 7 members here.
We voted to take it off the table.
Yes, I don't know. There was at least 2 no votes.
6-1.
It's 5-2. I voted no.
Oh, you voted?
Yeah.
Oh,
5-2. It takes 6 for it to be taken off the table.
Right.
It stays on the point of procedure. It stays on the table.
okay.
Okay,
Very good.
Okay.
Stays on the table.
it's fine.
Section B, the ordinance amending the EMS committee. Do I have a motion on that?
Move to strike.
Do we have a second?
Second.
A point of information. Is there a sponsor for this ordinance? I don't see it listed, and I'd be curious. This is from the previous council.
Yes.
There's a holdover that was assigned to the committee. So is there a sponsor for this? I don't know if Attorney Flork could advise us.
I agree with you. I don't see anything.
My pardon, through the chair, I don't know if Attorney Flork could advise us.
No, I agree with you. I don't see any sponsor listed, and I'm not sure who sponsored it in the previous council. So obviously, in order to go forward in this particular committee with this council, it would need a sponsor.
Mr. Chairman?
Yes.
Would the council clerk know who sponsored it? Gavin Forrester sponsored this? Okay. Okay, I got my question answered.
Yeah.
So, and I guess he would be the one to I just want to know what is the reason for eliminating the volunteers?
I'm sorry, there's a motion to strike on the table that I asked.
It hasn't been seconded.
We're on
Okay.
point of.
No,
I
a
had
second.
I did not second it.
Mr. Kadim seconded it.
I had a point of information, followed by Mr. Chase had a point of information.
Okay.
So we have
I seconded already.
a motion to strike it from the
To
record.
strike.
Any debate on it?
I would like to leave it on the table for now. therefore not strike it. I think we could find some more information about it.
I agree with Councilman Duma. I think we should first kind of see what some of the origins and some of the original thought was in putting the ordinance together. And then if we decide that it's something we'd like to move forward on, we can just attach sponsorship to it and take it up at a later date. I would agree with the motion to table, although said motion has not been made formally.
It's,
Ms. Manis?
as a point of procedure, it is still on the table, and the counselor from the first district
That's
moved
true.
to strike it from the agenda.
On page 2, backside responsibilities and the establishment, sections A and B, the establishment of the 9-member committee to approve expenditures, and then the responsibilities piece underneath this. In conversations that I've had with EMS regarding the use of the enterprise funds and regarding their funding and how they can best long-range plan for what they see as professionals and what they see as needs in the town, I'd like to investigate this part more. So I agree with Mr. Dumont and Mr. Llewellyn that I think we need to figure out more information about this. And I would like, if it does not get struck, I would like to have somebody from EMS possibly attend to it or in some way have a conversation with us about it.
Okay, we have a
Okay.
motion.
Can I
Mr.
just
Chair.
say something? Councilman Dumas is correct. This has not been taken off the table yet. So initially, if you want to discuss it, you have to take it off the table.
As a point of procedure, there's a motion to strike that is on the floor, and she's discussing the motion to strike and why she doesn't want to strike it.
So should we take a vote on the motion to strike and then do another motion to take it off the table?
I'm sorry.
To Town Attorney Florek?
I think you have to take it off the table first and then deal with the motion to strike.
Mr. Ponte?
I was going to withdraw my motion to strike.
Very good.
And I withdraw mine.
Excellent. Then how about,
Mr. Chairman?
Yes.
I would like to make a motion to remove this from the table.
to remove?
Take it off the table, yes.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
No.
No.
Why?
It stays on the table. We move on to the next item.
I believe it's 4-2 with the chair not voting it. 4-2 in favor of leaving it on the table.
Wait, I'm sorry, who's voting to leave it?
There have been 4 votes to leave it on the table, 2 to take it off the table, and the chair has not voted. So regardless of how the chair votes, it's going to stay on the table, but the chair has to vote.
I vote to leave it on the table.
And Mr. King?
Just a minute. So we're talking about the ordinance amendment for the EMS, right? Yes. So keep it on the table so we can review it another time. Yes. Correct.
Yes.
I would like to keep it on the table.
Right.
Is that fine? Thank you so much. I'm sorry it wasn't clear. Thank you.
So that makes,
Can we have a quick roll call vote because the votes aren't clear?
okay. Very good. Roll call vote.
This is the motion to leave it, is the motion to remove it from the table. A no vote leaves it on the table.
Okay, no.
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 Chase?
I voted no.
No?
The chair votes no.
Excuse me, Chair. Let me just ask a quick question. I was looking over the ordinance amendment for A, 3A. They were speaking about the trees, shrubs, and woody vegetables, where it would make the homeowner responsible, get a lien on the property of the homeowner if the town had to cut down the tree on their property. And did we ever vote on that?
It's staying on.
It's tabled.
It's tabled. Okay, I'm just.
Remain on the table.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you. Just in no way do we want to charge the homeowners for stuff like that. Just point of information.
Okay. Item C, an ordinance, Article 15, miscellaneous abatements for a renewable energy source. Do we have a motion to take it off the table?
Mr. Chair, I'd like to make a motion to take this ordinance off of the table.
Second.
Do we have any,
No discussion on a motion to table.
excuse me?
No discussion on a motion to take off the tables.
All in favor of taking it off the table?
Aye.
No.
Aye.
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 Yeah?
Aye.
The chair says aye.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes.
The question I had on this is, why is this, what is the background on this? Why has this been proposed?
This was from... for the abatement. I'm not sure who brought this in. This was 2015.
Well, Mr. Chairman, I voted aye to take it off the table just for discussion. My concern with this, frankly, is, we've got a current fiscal year deficit of, at this point, I think, I don't know if anybody knows for sure anymore, of about $1 million. Plus, the mayor is asking for a $7 million tax increase for the next fiscal year. I just don't think it's the right time to be offering tax abatements at this time.
Mr. Pont?
Mr. Chairman, I'd just like to point out for this one, I agree with Mr. Chase, and I just want to point out for this one that it would be tax abatements for installations that occurred between January 1st, 2013 and December 31st, 2013. I think that even if one wanted to do this, it might be difficult to enforce. But I worry about increasing the amount of property that's abated.
Right. Mr. Chairman, there's also the question I had is, it seems strange that we've got, this is only going to be done from January 1, 2013 to January 31, 2010. Who is this specifically for?
That I don't know. Mr. Dumas? You want to speak?
I was simply going to state that I was agreeing with Councilman Chase's initial position on this ordinance.
Call the question?
Well, you have two choices.
No.
You can move to strike it from the agenda, or you can send it back to council with either a favorable or an unfavorable recommendation.
Question. Through you, Mr. Chairman, if we strike it from the agenda, that basically kills it.
That is correct.
Then I'd make a motion to strike from the agenda.
I second that.
Any...
Point of clarification regarding this amendment, regarding this ordinance. This is for only commercial property, correct? With geothermal energy and solar paneling? Okay, so this is only commercial property. I guess it would be for the town attorney. It is not going to impact private homes.
It wouldn't seem that. This ordinance obviously has been tabled for a long time, and I don't know who brought it up or the reason it was brought up at the time. Normally, the way these tax abatement ordinances come to this body or to the council is that the state legislature comes up with this exemption from taxes, and they allow it to be chosen or not chosen by the individual municipalities. So at that point in time, the town of Stratford could have done it. Obviously, it was laid on the table. I don't know why it was laid on the table at that time. Okay. And so if you strike it here tonight, it goes away. That doesn't mean that it can't be brought up, later on in the sessions.
I just want to follow up really quick. I just want to make sure that people putting solar panels on their home, that equipment is very expensive and most of it is being covered by the energy provider. I want to make sure it's not part of their tax, that this isn't included in that.
This particular ordinance would seem to be dedicated to commercial or industrial purposes.
Mr. Dumas?
As a point of information, this bill was sponsored by Councilman Kubik, although that does not necessarily indicate anything because it was Councilman Kubik's practice to sponsor almost everything. It was a rare exception that he would allow individual members to sponsor things. That was just one of the peculiarities of his chairmanship. And I will support the motion to strike it from the agenda.
All right, so we have a motion to strike it. All those in favor?
Mr. Chairman?
Yes.
A point of order.
Mr. Chairman, he is not a member. He does not have a right to raise a point of order. No. He has no standing before this attorney.
I have some information that may be relevant to the action you're about to take.
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to hear what Mr. Knott has to say.
Yes, if you have some information, please.
I don't know if what I'm about to say is relevant to this particular ordinance, but I happen to be involved
Mr.
in
Chairman, I move to appeal the decision of the chair. Mr. Knott has no standing, and I'd like to appeal the decision of the chair to let him, whether he gets to speak.
I think the chair has already ruled.
Yeah, I'm moving to appeal the decision of the chair.
The chair has ruled, but members can outvote the chair. So that's what Mr. Dumas is doing. He's appealing to the membership of the...
In the interest of efficiency, particularly since many of us are going to move to strike this anyway, our meetings tend to run long. Let's make one meeting run short.
So as it stands procedurally, the chair has ruled that Mr. Knott can speak. Mr. Dumas has appealed that decision to this board. If this board, by majority vote, indicates that Mr. Knott cannot speak, then the chair's decision is overruled. If this board does not, by majority vote, rule against the chairman, then Mr. Knott can speak.
Can the chair poll the members, please?
Yes, can we take a vote on this, on whether Mr. Dumas can overrule or overrule?
Not Mr. Dumas, whether the committee overrules the chair on a point of procedure.
So, and just to be clear, a yes vote, it would be a vote to allow Mr. Knott to speak.
However you want to. Well, it's a yes vote would actually not allow him to
Right.
speak.
A yes vote would actually support Mr. Dumas's objection to that, and so Mr. Knott would not be allowed to speak.
Mr. Chair, I respect your authority.
Okay.
So I vote
no?
yes.
You vote.
I vote.
Vote no.
You vote no. If you vote.
I vote no.
Yes.
Yes.
No.
No.
The chair votes no.
Thank you. Very briefly, I happen to be involved in a transaction right now where a commercial building in town is spending approximately $485,000 to have solar panels put on the roof. And it's being done through the Green Bank of Connecticut, which is
I have a question for Mr. Knott. Who is the client?
It's the office building on Ferry Boulevard, 80 Ferry Boulevard.
Who is the owner of that? What's the name of the company?
Marina View LLC.
And who are the principals of that company?
That's none of your business.
It is. You're speaking to the council. We have a question.
May I complete my presentation, Mr. Chairman?
Yes.
I want to know what special interest you're representing.
You can ask questions when I complete my presentation.
I'm a member of the council. I can ask whatever questions I want. It's your privilege to speak here. I have.
And I've been given the privilege by this body, so if you would allow me to speak, I would appreciate it. They are investing $485,000 to put solar panels. The money is being financed through the Green Bank of Connecticut, which is a quasi-governmental lending institution. Part of the procedure for that money getting paid back is that the town within which the apparatus is located, through the tax office, the finance office, places a lien on the property for the amount of the money that represents the $485,000. That lien gets paid back by the property owner over 10 or 20 years, whatever the period of the lien is, just like a tax lien would be in the event new taxes were put in a street, or just like a sidewalk lien would be if new sidewalks were put in the street. I'm just concerned that with the amount of knowledge that's lacking with respect to this particular ordinance, that this doesn't end up being, by knocking this down, you don't end up destroying the mechanism by which the tax collector's office can implement the procedure that I just described through the Green Bank to put a lien on the property to collect the money that's due the Green Bank. What I've just described does not cost the town any money. The town simply acts as a mechanism by which the Green Bank can get paid back the loan through a municipal lien. So because of my uncertainty about what you're talking about, I would suggest that you refer it back to the council so additional information can be received by you prior to your taking action on it. Thank you.
Mr. Knott, I have a question, Mr. Knott. What this ordinance says, though, is for the assessment you're commencing October 1, 2014, The town of Stratford shall abate 100% of property tax for any Class 1 renewable energy source. So aren't we, in fact,
That's not what I'm talking about. Then this is something different then.
That's correct. This ordinance is for tax abatement only. Has nothing to do with regulating any such
Thank you for that
installation.
clarification. Then I'm talking about something different.
I thought so, okay.
We have a motion to strike it from the record?
We did have a motion to strike.
I second the motion to strike.
Okay. All in favor of striking this?
Aye.
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 The chair votes aye.
Do we need a roll call vote for that?
No.
Section D, ordinance, regular meetings adjournment, 33-1. Do we have a motion to take it off the table?
Motion to take off the table.
Second.
All in favor?
No discussion? Oh, all in favor. Take off the table.
Aye.
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 The chair says aye. Aye. Oh, sorry. Mr. Ponte?
Mr. Chair, I just wanted to remark about this ordinance. This ordinance would force the town council that if a meeting could not be held on Monday due to the council, due to a legal holiday or school closing, that the meeting would automatically be the next succeeding day. Sometimes people have made their schedules free for Mondays, but not necessarily free for Tuesdays, I think, as is in your case. So, I can respect the idea behind the ordinance, but that may not necessarily be what a council is able to do in terms of convening people. So I think that this would put some restrictions on the council that perhaps are unnecessary.
Ms. Manis?
Can I ask who the sponsor of this is? This is from the old council?
As a point of information, like the previous ordinance, it was by Councilman Kubik, but I believe the actual sponsor, in fact, was Councilwoman Phillips.
I think that's right. I think that's my recollection, too.
Mr. Chairman, to Mr. Pani's point, I agree. I mean, part of the language I have an issue with is school closing, which would mean that if the school was closed on the town council Monday meeting at any point over the winter, the town council meeting would then automatically be scheduled for Tuesday by ordinance.
Right. Ms. Manis?
Since you said that, now I understand where this is coming from. I think that this is partially to do with the Rosh Hashanah holiday and that particular holiday. Right. And here's, or Yom Kippur, however they happen to fall. My concern is that as the demographics in the town change, we may or may not continue to observe that holiday. Mm-hmm. But that is an important holiday for many of my friends and our friends in town. So I think perhaps some kind of an amendment might be justified to specify that specifically, that holiday or holidays with religious observance, such as Ramadan or Rosh Hashanah or Yom Kippur. I don't know.
Yes.
I think if we did that, we'd be opening up, frankly, pardon the expression, a can of worms, because then what are you going to do about other Christian holidays, Muslim holidays?
Right.
So I would leave the language as is.
I think the school closing language that Mr. Llewellyn is talking about deals specifically with the fact that we currently in our school system have that day off. But that may not continue. I know in my school system we don't have that off anymore. So things are changing.
Mr. Duma?
Through the chair, I have a question for Mr. Llewellyn. Was your concern about a snow day?
Yes.
Yes, because by school closing, there's more than one meaning for what that could be caused by. I mean, I think that as a council, do we not have an organizational meeting once a year where then we look at a calendar and see how vacations and holidays impact our schedule? I just think it's better to work in that manner than create by ordinance that then commits us to having certain dates when certain auxiliary events happen.
I agree. Tina?
The last thing I want to say on this, I think perhaps this, if we strike this or whatever, the biggest issue is that council meeting happened on a holiday. And I think that was a bigger issue than them not happening in the right order. And with that, I think a council meeting happening on Rosh Hashanah was the issue. And I think that upset a lot of people. So I'm not sure if this is worded the way we want it to, but I think that was the bigger issue. So I don't know if we could reword it or make it that, and rather than all these other things. I don't know if that's possible.
Ms. Dumas?
I just want to point out that this coming fall, I mean, there's Columbus Day followed by a religious holiday on a Tuesday, which, kind of makes it dicey, whereas this would force it, even though the next day was not is not a school holiday. This would force us to be on that Tuesday where there is a religious holiday. I just think having a little more latitude and talking it out amongst council members is a better idea.
Mr. Dumas? No? No? Any further discussion?
I move to table.
Second.
Okay. All in favor of tabling it?
Aye.
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 This is aye.
No, just get it over with.
An ordinance, Section E, an ordinance amending Chapter 15 to implement a temporary hiring freeze.
Mr. Chairman, I'm sorry. Before you go further, on that last item regarding the adjournment, regular meetings adjournment, maybe the chairman can direct Mr. Dumas and the town attorney to work together to come up with some language that can be amended.
To amend the...
Yeah.
Mr. Dumas, is there anything that interests you?
I'll speak to my senior partner.
So noted.
What does that mean? Oh, your wife.
Okay, go on to E. Do we have a motion to take it off the table?
Mr. Chairman, since I think this hiring freeze was only until the end of June, I move we strike.
I'll second.
Any debate? All in favor of striking it from the record?
Aye.
Aye. Aye.
Aye.
Chairman says aye. Unanimous. F, ordinance amending to require reauthorization of previously approved capital improvements. Can we get a motion to take it off the table? No? Okay, then I guess this gets left on the table, correct?
Yes, Mr. Chairman.
Okay. G,
Mr. Chairman, I move to take item number 3G off the table.
Second.
okay. All in favor of taking it off the table? G?
Aye.
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 Mr. Chairman, I move that we report this ordinance favorably back to the town council.
Second.
Mr. Fonte?
I just want
Chairman,
to... Oh, he recognized.
go ahead.
No, I just want to point out that the finance director is already doing this, but I do think that an ordinance here is good in case if we ever had another finance director, this would tie their hands to make sure that this information is published.
Can we get a vote to send this to the favorable recommendation to the council? All in favor?
Yes.
Aye.
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 Chair says aye. 7-0. And H, an ordinance to amend the annual operating budget. Do I have a motion to take it off the table?
Mr. Chairman,
Yes.
I believe, and maybe, excuse me, Councilwoman Manis can correct me, but I believe that this information is is totally outdated now, and that we probably should just strike it.
Well, there need to be a motion to discuss this. The question, it's still on the table. It hasn't been removed from the table. If there's a motion to strike it, then that can be debated. But otherwise, it needs to be left on the table, removed from the table, or
I
a
move to
motion
strike.
We have a second?
No, you don't have to take it off the table, right?
Correct. It be left on the table.
You can leave it on the table, but if you're going to strike it, you have to take it off the table.
Okay, I move to take it off. Oh, I still move to take it off the table.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Mr. Chairman, I move to strike.
Second.
Mr. Dumas?
Mr. Chairman, I would like to leave this on the agenda simply for a procedural reason. This ordinance is already there. It's already had a first reading. It gives us the procedural flexibility to do something later before the end of the fiscal year if we need to. We can bring this back to the Ordinance Committee and amend it if we need to without having to go through another first reading. It just procedurally keeps our options open to leave this on the table so that if we need to amend it between now and the end of the fiscal year, we can. It just makes our life easier. We have more options, and we just leave it on the table in the meantime.
All right, Mr. Chairman, I would tend to agree, but I have a question to our attorney. We do have the authority now to amend this ordinance?
Yes, and that's what the ordinance committee is for. It's to do the grunt work, to discuss it, to amend it possibly, and to bring it back to the council in what can be deemed a favorable manner, a favorable recommendation. Having said that, I think the problem with this particular ordinance is that I understand what's trying to be accomplished.
Mr. Chairman, I urge a
don't think
point
you
of
can
order.
do it
The
that way.
counselor had asked a question, it had been answered, and now the town attorney is opining on something outside the scope of the question raised. That could be left to another time because it could be entirely irrelevant.
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to hear the town attorney opine on the point he's trying to make.
So would I.
I simply don't think you can accomplish what you're trying to accomplish in this manner, because funds were appropriated, and it's a little bit late to go back and amend those appropriations. It's locking the barn door after the horse is out. Clearly, this council has the right to transfer funds from any line item into any other line item.
So we could amend transferring funds using this vehicle.
That you could do.
Okay. I would concur with Mr. Dumas and leave this on the table. Therefore, I withdraw my motion to strike.
Okay.
I move to table.
Second.
Any discussion? Any more discussion?
There's no discussion on a motion to table.
Okay. Can I get all in favor of leaving it on the table?
Aye.
Aye.
Chairman says aye. New business?
Mr. Chairman? Referencing new business, there were two ordinances that were submitted by Mr. Dumas, and they have not been put on the council agenda to refer here. So my question I have to the town attorney is, can the ordinance committee on its own raise an ordinance and refer it back to the town committee? The town council.
No, because it has to appear at the council for a first reading, and the council has to refer it to the ordinance committee. The ordinance committee is only a committee of the council, which is the vehicle for discussing in detail these proposed ordinances.
Follow-up question through you, Mr. Chairman. So, as an example, if there was an ordinance already on the ordinance committee's agenda and Mr. Dumas' proposed ordinances, which hadn't been read yet, were germane to what was on the council agenda, on the ordinance committee agenda, would those be allowable as amendments?
So long as they were germane and related to the ordinance that was being discussed. So you can always amend that ordinance that was being discussed. However, unlike the liberty that you had in the legislature or that Congress has. You can't attach a completely unrelated amendment to a bill that's pending.
But as long as
before the
it's
body.
germane, it could be attached.
That is correct.
Okay.
I just want to point out that I'm not sure which ordinances you're talking about, but if they're the ones that have to do with campaign contributions and the other one that has to do with purchasing,
That's
they
correct.
were on the agenda. We unfortunately adjourned at midnight
That's
at our
not my
last
fault.
meeting. No, I know there's a lot to do.
So is the council
and-
chairman indicating that we will refer those to the ordinance committee?
Well, I don't know what the vote will be, but those are on the agenda for the special meeting on Thursday.
Will the council chairman support them?
That's to be
be
discussed
determined.
at that point.
Thank you, Mr.
Yeah.
Thank you, Mr.
But they were
Chairman.
on the agenda.
Mr. Chairman, I move to adjourn.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye.